Well, let's get across the market open now. Peter Maguire joining us from trading.com. Pete, welcome to Tuesday. Great to have you back on the show. Now, plenty happening overnight, of course, not the least being that summit between Anthony Albanese and Donald Trump at the White House. And importantly, they've struck a critical minerals deal.
Absolutely. And good morning, Andrew. Yes, it certainly was. President Trump has realised, and that was probably the major focus over the last probably couple of years, that he needs to shore up due to China's dominance in the 90% of the rare earths. They control the market, and he needs to look at alternatives, and that's certainly Australia. We've got a very strong relationship with America, and we all understand it's critical for our defence, and certainly moving forward, this is going to, I think, underpin our mineral side of things. And President Trump looks at magnets, naturally for the defence system and all forms of technology, and Australia can come up to the plate for that.
It's going to be interesting, Pete, to see how the Chinese respond. Now, of course, we've got that plenary meeting underway this week.
Yeah, fourth plenary. That started, I believe, yesterday, and they're hashing out development plans for the next 5 years. So there's the first part of it. It'll run in Beijing for probably the next 3 to 4 days. And it's high stakes for China. You know, you've got to look at where they were. Q3, the numbers dropped yesterday for GDP at 4.8. They didn't shine, Andrew. That was what expectation was. So they haven't hit the ball out of the park. They're realising that they need to really look very closely at their internal model. And then they've got the next part of the journey, which is, and this is game on, this is US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He's meeting with Vice Premier He, and that's I believe that'll be today or tomorrow, regarding the trade talks. So it's very, very focused. President Trump hasn't taken his knee off the throat. I think he's probably applying even more pressure. So this is going to be very dynamic how this plays out over the next couple of days.
So, yeah, obviously that is at issue here, the risk of that trade war developing between the US and China. Pete, that's a good reason why gold has rallied, of course, more recently. Now, we did see it pull back on Friday. Well, it's just wiped out those losses, hasn't it? It's back higher again today.
Yeah, just dramatic, you know, Andrew. That just gave up hot steam. I think that's a real lesson for traders. Markets get ahead of themselves sometimes, and there's just that inflection point that looks at, we need to take a little bit of hot steam off the hot plate. And that was really very evident on Friday, and it had a big rally down. I mean, it was a very great market to short. And then overnight, you've seen that US, as far as the situation in the US, rolling across to gold, and it was up over 4% this morning. It's given up a little bit of steam and small, maybe 0.5%, but it's still up, the best part of 130, 140 bucks. And that's just, game on again, and gold charges higher.
So can you see anything holding it back at this point, Pete?
No, I think the overall appetite, Andrew, from retail sector to, lining up in Martin Place, buying at, bullion companies. I think from a retail, you're looking at the paper market. I'm conscious as far as central banks and the aggressive stance that investors are having to add it to portfolios. You've got the big hedge fund kings even saying that should be in a portfolio now. So it's a little bit of a wake-up call. I think Main Street's very much ahead of Wall Street. And if you're looking at Asia, you look at India and of course China and other parts of the world, they've been engaged in this for millennium. And I think that, its best days are certainly ahead of it. 5,000's the next handle that everyone's got their eye on. And I think it'll march through there with a lot of conviction, Andrew.
Pete, this is just, of course, part of that everything rally we're seeing at the moment. Look, Bitcoin, some positive moves overnight as well.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, that had a nice move. So, the crypto space, it was punched down, and it's like anything, it's not too far from its all-time highs. So the overall appetite, I think, is just gaining momentum. And as you just, that the way you summarize that, the everything rally or the everything strength, US stock market, US dollar, what's happening as far as, global growth and the appetite, I think you're going to see, again, further upticks for the crypto space. And, watch out. That's coming through.
And Pete, on the equity front then, look, another strong session, particularly on Wall Street overnight. Yeah. Once again, are you seeing, you'd be, I guess, brave at this point to stand in front of that momentum at the moment, wouldn't you?
It'll run you over, Andrew. It's 1.12 up for the Dow. S&P was up 1.07, and the Nasdaq really was very strong, nearly at 1.4% up. So that overall strength. Asia was a good day yesterday. You can't take your eyes off the Nikkei. It was up over nearly 3.4%. We're nudging 49. We're through 49,000. The target is 50,000, and I think it'll take it out this week. So Japan's on fire, and the overall global dynamic as far as equity markets is very, very strong, and that'll wash across here today. And I think we're expecting a fairly strong day for Asia and in turn Australia.
And Pete, what are your observations with currencies at the moment? The Aussie in particular is sort of stuck around that 65-cent level.
Yeah. Look, Andrew, it's in a channel. It's 65.16. There's easier money to make on other markets other than the Aussie versus the US dollar. I want to see what happens as far as CPI numbers for the US this week. Do we see 2 rate cuts by end of year? And what's the appetite for the Fed? So if that was to materialise, US dollar will come off. We'll get a bounce to the upside, and that's probably the name of the game. So yeah, stay focused on it, but don't let that be your number one market to trade, because there's plenty of other markets that are offering incredible returns.